Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Toma bina ke doyalo jagat sansare Your incarnation is just to reclaim the conditioned fallen souls. But I assure you that you will not find a greater fallen soul than me. Therefore my claim is first. Patita pavana etu tavavatara Samapatita Prabhu Napaibe Ara My dear Lord Nityananda, you are always joyful in spiritual bliss. Since you are always appearing very happy, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. If you kindly put your glance over me, then I may also become happy. Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Shokhi Kripa Bolokana Koro Ami Borodokhe My dear Advaita Prabhu, husband of Sita, you are so kind. Please be merciful unto me. If you are kind to me, naturally Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda will also be kind to me. Toya koro sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava kripa bale bhai Chaitanya neta Daya Kora Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Dasa Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Toma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Sansare
श्री राधा गोकुलानंद की जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दना व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दना व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी श्री श्री राधा माधव की श्री राधा गोकुलानंद की जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस पूर्वराज आचार्य अष्टोत्तर सत्य श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की श्री वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की भक्ति देवी की श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की समवेत भक्त वृंद की दाय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki. So today we're reading from Madhya Lila, chapter 11, a couple of verses 193 to 195. So I'll just read this and we'll recite together 195. That's the one with the purport. Eta bali tare laya gela pushpo dhyane ati nibrite tare dila vasastane. Saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took Haridas Thakur within the flower garden, and there in a very secluded place he showed him his residence. Estani rahi kara naam sankirtan pratidina ashyami karibe milan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Haridas Thakur, remain here and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. I shall personally come here to meet you daily. Mandirera chakra dekhi kariha pranam e thai tomara asibe prasadan. Mandirera chakra dekhi kariha pranam Mandirera chakra dekhi kariha pranam Hey thani tomara asibe prasadan Mandirera chakra dekhi kariha pranam Ethai tomara asibe prasadana. Mandire chakra dekhi karira pranam. Mandira chakra dehi kariha pranam. Etai tomara sibe prasadan. Matijis? Mandire chakra dehi kariha pranam. Etai tomara asibe prasadan. Dekhi. Any more? Mandirera of the temple of Jagannath. Chakra, the wheel on the top. Dekhi, seeing. Kariha pranam, offer your obeisances. Ethai, in this place. Tomara, your. Asibe, will come. Prasada anna, remnants of food offered to Jagannath. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Remain here peacefully and look at the chakra on the top of the temple and offer obeisances. As far as your prasadam is concerned, I shall arrange to have that sent here. Purport. Since he was born in a Muslim family, Srila Haridas Thakur could not enter the temple of Jagannath due to temple restrictions. Nonetheless, he was recognized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Namacharya Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, however, considered himself unfit to enter the Jagannath temple. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could have personally taken Haridas Thakur into the Jagannath temple if he wished, but the Lord did not like to disturb a popular custom. Consequently, the Lord asked his servant simply to look at the Vishnu wheel on top of the temple and offer obeisances namaskar. This means that if one is not allowed to enter the temple, or if he thinks himself unfit to enter the temple, he can look at the wheel from outside the temple, and that is as good as seeing the deity within. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu promised to come daily to see Srila Haridas Thakur, and this indicates that Srila Haridas Thakur was so advanced in spiritual life that although considered unfit to enter the temple, he was being personally visited by the Lord every day. Nor was there any need for his going outside his residence to collect food. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assured Haridas Thakur that the remnants of his food would be sent there. As the Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita 9:22, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham, I arrange all life's necessities for my devotees. A reference is made here for those who are very anxious to imitate the behavior of Thakur Haridas in an unnatural way. One must receive the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his representative before adopting such a way of life. The duty of a pure devotee or a servant of the Lord is to carry out the order of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to go to Bengal and preach, and he asked the Goswamis Rupa and Sanatan to go to Vrindavan and excavate the lost places of pilgrimage. In this case, the Lord asked Haridas Thakur to remain there at Jagannath Puri and constantly chant the holy names of the Lord. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave different persons different orders, and consequently one should not try to imitate the behavior of Haridas Thakur without being ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his representative. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur condemns such imitations in this way. Dushtamana tumi kishera Vaishnava pratishtar tare nirjanera ghare tava harinam kevala kaitava. My dear mind, you are trying to imitate Haridas Thakur and chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a secluded place. But you are not worth being called a Vaishnav, because what you want is cheap popularity and not the actual qualifications of Haridas Thakur. If you try to imitate him, you will fall down, for your neophyte position will cause you to think of women and money. Thus you will fall into the clutches of Maya, and your so-called chanting in a secluded place will bring about your downfall. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanand Swami Namine. Well, such a nice purport and a series of verses dealing with Haridas Thakur and the wonderful arrangements that the Lord made for him. Haridas Thakur is not the Namacharya by accident, designated as such by the Lord himself. And we see how Mahaprabhu took full care of him. And there's a very interesting element of protection that is mentioned or brought out by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. And it is connected to our dependence on Krishna. When there is a devotee who is fully dependent on Krishna, fully surrendered to him, whose life exists only for the satisfaction of the Lord, and who has no other agenda or other ambition for personal maintenance. This is very interesting. No ambition for personal maintenance. Then the Lord decides that, okay, this person is worthy of my shelter. There have been so many examples of this in the Shastra, right? You see so many. Gajendra comes to mind. Gajendra at that time when he finally surrendered, he was fighting and fighting and fighting. For how long? I think 1,000 years or something. Long period of time, fighting the crocodile with his own strength. And eventually he realized, okay, this is beyond me. There's no one who could actually do this to me. This must be sent by the Lord. And then he surrendered fully. Picked up a lotus as we see depicted, offered that to the Lord. And then the Lord appeared. And his Sudarshan dealt with this small problem, the crocodile. Who else is there? There's Haridas Thakur himself, who was totally surrendered to the Lord. So much so that even while they were tormenting him in the marketplaces, dragging him through the marketplaces, beating him, he did nothing. And the Lord felt so obliged to him that he personally covered his body with his own, and then later showed him the marks of the beatings, which he was taking on behalf of Haridas Thakur. So many other examples. Draupadi comes to mind. Draupadi, right? She was struggling and struggling. Powerful men there, disrobing her, Dushashan, others, causing great mistreatment. And she was fighting for some time, resisting. But then she surrendered fully to Krishna. And what did Krishna do? Supply unlimited means for her protection. This is the capability and the capacity of Krishna, that he can look after every single person completely. And the protection he can offer exceeds by far any protection that is available in this world. So in the Bhagavatam there's a nice verse, Deha patya kalatradishu atma senyeshva satsvapi desham pramato nidhanam pashyanapi na pashyati. Right, that there are people in this world surround themselves with deha patya kala. Right, they surround themselves with different items that they think will protect them. Typically it is connected to household life, family life, relatives, armies, states, protection, career, means for survival. These are typically the items that people take shelter of. Some people take shelter of money because they think with money you can buy all the rest of that. You can buy protection, you can buy this, that. So these days money is the much sought after commodity which can purchase anything, even a person's character. We've seen that happening. that just a little temptation of money causes someone to give up their character completely. So that's one way that people determine whether they're powerful or not. It can be, of course, any of the opulences of Krishna. He's Bhagavan, full of 6 opulences. Any of them are a means for someone to feel protected. Isn't it? If you happen to be a strong person, you feel quite protected. You're able to look after yourself. Or if you surround yourself with strong people, then you don't have much fear walking in the streets. If you're wealthy, if you're beautiful, you think you will charm your way through any situation. And yes, some people manage it successfully for a whole lifetime. Sometimes it stops working as the inevitable old age comes and we realize that those assets are no longer with us. Or if the government steals all your money through taxation or whatever, or it's lost through thieves and dacoits. Any of these opulences, they each have a finite ability. None of them can really protect us long term. Even if somehow these opulences manage to protect us during this life, they cannot do so any further. And at the point of death, none of these items will come to anyone's assistance. Right? Okay, you could have a nice luxurious bed, you could have nurses around you, you could have all sorts of drips and gadgets and stuff if you have the top medical facilities available through money. But still, none of that's going to change the fact that the soul is going to be ripped out of the body with a pain equivalent to the sting of 40,000 scorpions. Who is saved from that? I mean, those around you may think that if you simply inject someone with enough anesthetic, they won't feel anything. We have no clue what is being felt. When that soul is forcibly extracted from a body that it does not want to be released from, what that soul is feeling, no one around them has a clue. And so we think, they died peacefully. Passed away peacefully. Or these days there's a whole industry with euthanasia becoming more and more of a topic, where people think as long as the person disappears without causing a disturbance to others, that's the best thing for them. And let's just think how that really works. It's a miserable state in life, the final moments. No one is really spared from it. Everyone has to go through it to some degree or other, according to their karma, according to the inevitable need to take on another body. Of course, the only real way to deal with it is to make that inevitable not inevitable, and to make some changes in our life while we are living, so that our next destination becomes something different. Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Right? Whatever one remembers at the time of death, they attain to that nature. So Krishna explains that if one's thoughts, one's cultivation through one's lifetime is spiritual and is of the spiritual world, the spiritual realm with spiritual ideas, spiritual concepts, then they will attain that nature, which means they will get a destination where those things operate. Here in this world, the principle of envy operates. Envy, acquisition, control. Well, in the spiritual world, none of those things are welcome, or none of those things are even present. Envy is completely absent. There is a mood of every single person's happiness being dependent upon them rendering happiness to others. That's the mood of the spiritual world. So imagine if someone, even by some great fortune, we get a ticket, someone gives us a ticket, go to the spiritual world. As soon as we go there, and we realize the entire place operates on completely different principles to the ones that we are totally accustomed to operating with on a daily basis, we're going to feel so out of place. Even if someone has sent us to the best possible realm, because our mentality will be completely alien to that place, we will be actually miserable. So therefore, it's not so much of a question of getting there. The getting there is the easy part. In the material world, we have transportation problems. You know, our outlook on life is governed by the things we're able to do. Walking, then running, then chariots, then cars, then flying, then rockets, and then God knows what else. Then the mind through the power of Zoom and internet, right? You don't even physically have to go anywhere now. Just you can transport your mind and interact with other people's minds in a different realm. That's our consciousness here. We struggle with all these things. But we don't know that there are Vaikuntha airplanes which can just take us there and no problem. That's not really the issue. The issue is, do you have the right mentality? Do you have a visa? Well, even if you acquire the visa, do you have a character and behavior that allows you to fit in there? And that is really what our attempts in Krishna consciousness are all about. Transforming our consciousness so that we become devotionally enlivened, so that our orientation in our mind changes completely from topics of this world. It says there are so many topics in human society, right? How does the verse go? Shrotavyadi nirajendra nranam santi sahasrasha apashyatam atmatattvam griheshu grihamedinam. The center of household life is based upon multiple topics for human discussion, multiple names, multiple things like that. And those topics, if they're transformed, if instead of being something that keeps us running around, grihamedinam, that analogy is one of a bull tied with a rope to a stick, going round and round and round, thinking it's moving very fast, but ultimately going nowhere, just going round. If our mentality changes from that to being centered around topics of Krishna, that circling, which in a material sense simply causes our circling through the species of life, that circling around Krishna and his topics will take us to the spiritual world, where there is no more birth and death, no more samsara, no more cycles of distress and pain and happiness to go through. That's what's possible through a cultivation of Krishna consciousness. And here in this example, we see one element of the type of consciousness that we are encouraged to develop. And that is Haridas Thakur's humility and the importance of spiritual customs, spiritual teachings, spiritual principles. Customs are, at least bona fide customs, are extremely difficult to establish, especially in places where the typical customs are the opposite of the customs that are normally associated with advanced culture. So we're in those environments, and the material world largely is becoming a place where any good custom that causes someone to be uplifted is campaigned against and removed in due course of time. Some explanation comes up, some campaign starts, some reason comes, something happens. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki. And always the justifiable or the justification terminology that's used is, I have my rights. I have my rights. I should get this. He gets this, she gets this. Why don't I get it? Okay, now Haridas Thakur could have applied that. He could have said, look, I'm chanting 300,000 names. Do any of you do that? I deserve to go inside the Jagannath temple more than any of you. He could have said to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, I have a deep desire to go inside the Jagannath temple. He didn't do that. Mahaprabhu could have said to him, Haridas Thakur, you are my dear devotee, and I think it is absolutely atrocious that the temple authorities do not let you into the temple. Just come with me, see what happens. I will take you right in. He could have done that. And he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one could have stopped him. But what did he say? Or what did he do? He looked at Haridas Thakur's behavior. That here was a custom, a long-established custom, a tradition. Whatever its merits are, whatever its reasons, whatever its lack of merit, was not a topic of Haridas's consideration. His consideration was, this is the home of the Lord. This is the place of the Lord. And by disrespecting the place of the Lord and its customs, how on earth will I how will I endear myself to the Lord? Does the Lord not know these things are going on here? Does he not know that the guards are doing this on the outside? Of course, to someone who's situated correctly like Haridas Thakur, nothing is accidental. So he was thinking, this is perfectly befitting. I am naturally born of a low character. I'm born in a low family. By his birth, he was a Muslim. Typically, Muslim families would not be considered clean or considered or engaged in higher principles of devotional service, because aspects of that behavior, eating meat, slaughtering animals, those are items which true spiritual practitioners find distasteful. Now, they're widespread, so we're not singling out any particular culture or anything, but we can see how there's a clear difference between when one considers that in my background, from my birth, I was doing these things. By nature, I'm a sinful person. Even many people here, sometimes by some quirk of fate, even people of the tradition, Vaishnavas or Hindus, have somehow justified going down this kind of path of degraded behavior, utilizing animals mercilessly for their own satisfaction of their tongues. That's something that is somewhat concerning, somewhat not befitting, you can say. Not befitting persons who should know better, because at least their heritage and birth has taught them something else. They have the education, they have the environment, they hopefully have teachings by which reinforcement of one of the fundamental principles or fundamental pillars of religious life, mercy towards others. That can be reinforced by showing mercy to all other creatures. Even plants, trees need to be shown mercy. So we don't industrially condone slaughtering trees, insects, maybe that's the wrong word to use, cutting them down, exploiting them, you can say, extensively for material gains. Yes, there is a clear hierarchy. Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatushpadam falguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. Yes, we can use that to justify anything. How in this material world, one living entity is food for another living entity. That's the principle of this world. It's not a principle of the spiritual world, but we're here in this world, and that's the principle that operates here. So we could say, yes, the plants, the lower entities are designed for use, consumption by higher entities. Yes. Then it goes so far as to say that the grasses, creepers, they are food for the four living entities. And the four-legged entities are food for the two-legged entities. It does say that. Yes, if you want to justify eating animals, you'll even find it in our Shastra, if you want that. But if you want to understand that alongside all of those descriptions, there is also a few other descriptions, pillars of sinful life that we have to avoid if we're going to make ourselves dear to Krishna. Mercy, truthfulness. What are the other two? Cleanliness, austerity. These are four pillars of spiritual life or wholesome life. In fact, Prabhupada says in one place, these pillars actually, if someone follows these, they can be considered to be on the human platform. If they don't come to this level, they're actually on the animal platform. And of course, then we have our direct opposites of these, the four eggs that we avoid. Right? So each of these, mercy, cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity, when these are compromised, we do meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. They correspond to each one of those. That's why we make a determination to move away from those. We make a determination that we will live a life in a wholesome way. And therefore the showing of respect to a culture or a custom is very, very important. Customs exist. They are religious customs, spiritual customs, customs which may seem alien here. They may be at odds with the standard principles that people follow in this world. They may think, this is so weird, this is so strange. I don't like it, therefore let's change it. Let's have a meeting, let's get a committee together, let's have enough people shouting, let's make some change. Okay, you may even succeed. The committee may endorse you. The entire congregation may endorse you. At the end of the day, if your decision was not in line with the customs given by Lord Krishna, the customs practiced by the acharyas, the customs practiced by each of the devotees in the Bhagavatam, the devotees in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, if at no point was there any precedent for whatever you have just unanimously declared to be correct, ultimately, in the ultimate judgment of the Lord, and in the judgment of anyone who is sane, that decision is worthless and is actually something that can degrade degrade us. By some chance, Srila Prabhupada came to the West and established certain cultures, certain customs, which are a little different, a little difficult to understand. With great difficulty, he could do that with his Shakti as an empowered representative of the Lord. Anyone else following that is going to have a hard time even establishing the basics of what Prabhupada established. Very hard time, because the whole of society is going directly against it. Little elements of culture. So therefore, those who are then actually charged with preserving that culture, if they then act to destroy that culture, little by little, one decision after another, one speculation, one promotion, one agenda, one this, that, one little bit after another. In a short while, what Srila Prabhupada established with great difficulty will simply be just imaginary. We'll read the purports and say, that makes no sense to me. The world has moved on since then. Let's do something else. This can happen. We probably see it happening to some degree. And this is why Prabhupada's genius, and it is a stroke of genius, is ensuring that the control of the literature, the control of our sources of authority, the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is not within the operational authority. The operational authority is ISKCON, right? That is a society that utilizes Srila Prabhupada's works, his books, which are under the control of who? The BBT. Inherently meant to be an independent body. Just see how Prabhupada is thinking far ahead. If at some point in the future, if the process of removing items of culture continues, there could be a chance where devotees genuinely coming to the movement are presented with something that is actually quite different in reality to what Srila Prabhupada intended for the movement. Just think, a great visionary and empowered acharya like Srila Prabhupada has to not think just about putting in place something, giving people teachings, and giving people a lifestyle to follow. He has to think about the inevitability that it will go wrong. In fact, it's almost guaranteed to go wrong, because that's the nature of Kali Yuga. If somehow we manage to make it through 10,000 years without too much custom loss, or too much tradition loss, or philosophical deviations, we could give ourselves a big pat on the back. That would be a really good achievement. We know that soon after that it will be pretty rapid downhill, because Kali Yuga will be exerting itself in full force. So we're in this special kind of golden kind of period. Lord Chaitanya is only 500 years ago, 500 something years ago, that Lord Chaitanya was present. He gave us this wonderful example through his own Leela. I mean, he didn't need to do that. He only came 5,000 years prior, 4,500 prior to that. He came, he'd already done all his things as Krishna. Janma karma chame divyam. Anyone who saw those traditions, those pastimes, or heard about them, immediately has a chance to attain success. But still Lord Chaitanya came down. He came and brought with him Sangha Upanga Astra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayari Ajantihi Sumedasaha. That intelligent person, those who are Sumedasaha, those who have good brain substance, Prabhupada says, those who are intelligent will accept and participate in the Harinam Sankirtan movement, because that is the saving grace for this age. And then he demonstrated it. What is this Harinam Sankirtan movement? What is the culture of devotees? What is a society of devotees? What are the definitions of those? How do they operate? How do they think? So we have, for the next 10,000 years, by Prabhupada's own words, his books as the authorities, not subject to any managerial decisions, good or bad. The ideas, they're independent. They're set in stone. The message is there. The purports are there. Everything is there by Prabhupada's grace. Of course, some edits, etc., are necessary to make sure the language is understandable. And maybe as time goes on, even descriptions or further elaborations may need to be included, because even language changes from one generation to another. Some of the English Prabhupada uses now seems a bit alien to many of us. It was quite normal in those times. But then just imagine even English. There are differences between English that's spoken in this country versus English that's spoken in America, although it's technically the same language, there are differences in terms of understanding, nuances, and then what to speak of English as spoken in the remaining Commonwealth countries. Then consider the different regional influences and completely different languages altogether. The translations of the books cannot be identical in each language because there are not the same mechanisms for expression in each language. So there is always a fluidity, a breadth, you can say, a breadth of expression of the Vedic substance. So we can just see, if we're a little intelligent, that just as Prabhupada had to put in place measures to prevent the teachings being managed away, possibly in the future. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm saying it's always a risk in the material world. Nothing that we see lasts properly. Any organization, there's, if you study different phases of religious organizations' growth, those who know this, they'll give you different phases. You have the charismatic leader, then you have the maintenance phase, then you have those fighting the infighters, then you have the establishment of new authority, then you have the broadening out and something of a church developing you have all this stuff. And we know where that goes. All of that, inevitably, sooner or later, could be 1,000 years later, 2,000 years, 3,000, 4,000. At some point the discussion comes, what exactly is the principle we should be following? The Lord says this in Canto 1. The Lord says this in Canto 8. Today we're doing this. How do we make sense of all of this? That discussion will always take place. And it's also healthy that that discussion takes place, because our acceptance of Shastra is not that it's on a pedestal, we see it as something great, and we never go near it. The whole point is that we're supposed to be engaging with it, seeing how that Shastra relates to our life, how it can transform us, and making our vision Shastra Chakshus, making our vision of the Shastra. Now you can just see that although that's the goal and that's our practice, because each person, even in this room as an individual, they will have a different experience of that process, a different experience. And then it is inevitable that over time there may be individuals whose allegiance to the acharyas, whose allegiance to Krishna, whose actual advancement may be short of what's required to accurately maintain Shastra. So therefore it has to be in its own category, non-touchable, but available for reference from anyone. So if we have a doubt, what is a custom? A decision was made to remove this custom, a decision was made to add this. What does the Shastra say about it? It doesn't matter if everyone agrees with it. That's not the judging point at all. We don't come to this movement because we will feel popular, right? Devotees are relatively few. We come to the movement because there is something here that is so rare, so precious. It's a gem. It's something that people don't even know exists. It's something that has the potential to give our heart complete satisfaction. We're not interested in that because everyone else does it. We're interested in it because of its own inherent value. That's why we come to the movement. So therefore, mass acceptance of anything is never a standard. Never alters a principle. Principles are where? Principles are given by Krishna. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam navai vidur rashyo napi devaha nasitta mukhya sura manushya kutonu vidyadhara charanadaya. Real religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not by the demigods, not by the Vidyadharas, not by Lord Brahma, not by Lord Shiva or anyone else. They don't enact the principles. But as Mahajans, they're responsible for maintaining them. So when we have someone who follows in the footsteps of the Mahajans, Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vaya Sakir Vayam, all of those persons, we are directly following in Vayasakhi, Shukadev Goswami. That Bhagavatam is a condensed demonstration or presentation to us of the Shastric principles defined by Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, that always remains our ultimate point of judgment, our ultimate point of reference, the place we go to ultimately resolve things. And this is why it is so very important that in our movement, devotees study the Shastra properly. They understand that yes, the holy name is there as the means for chanting. In fact, that was an instruction given to Haridas Thakur just now. Chant the holy name. But Prabhupada didn't come here and just say, all of you just chant the holy name. He didn't just say that, did he? He translated volumes of books. He struggled, labored to distribute them. Why? Because these books teach us about the object of our chanting. These books teach us the object of our chanting, the sambandha. They also teach us the process of our chanting. Reading, studying, discussing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, 9 processes of devotional service. And they teach us of the goal, the sadhya, the ultimate purpose of doing any of this. To please Krishna and to resituate ourselves correctly. So we should be careful that we don't trivialize the movement. Yes, of course we're going to spread the holy name. And we'll be able to spread the holy name powerfully, strongly, when we follow the same program that Srila Prabhupada followed. He translated the Bhagavatam over time, prior to coming, and then on board the Jaladuta he wrote these prayers, Bhagavat Markine Dharma. And he wrote in there, I don't know why you have brought me here, Lord Krishna, but I have come here and I have strong faith in 2 things, the Bhagavatam and the holy name. You have brought me here with these 2 things. If that is Prabhupada's description of his purpose from the moment of arrival, we can also take very clearly and very strongly that that is also a safe path for us to follow. With the Bhagavatam in one hand and the bead bag in the other, and frequently consulted, this is the way we can actually move forward, maintain customs, maintain traditions, maintain the essence of good behavior that's mentioned in this scripture. That's the only safe way to do it. And then a society of devotees that serves that principle will become a great asset to all of us. They will be able to help us. They'll be able to correct us. They'll be able to guide us. They will be able to help us practice a level of devotion which is higher than the one we want to. This is much needed in spiritual life. We always tend to look around us and we tend to find a person whose practice is less than ours. Because then it makes us feel that, okay, I'm not doing so badly. Actually, the vision of someone who is like Haridas Thakur is to look around and who is that person I can follow who way exceeds me? I will go to that person and I will serve them. That means you go upwards. Because when you serve someone who is more advanced than you are, you get their blessings, their mercy. Krishna is happy with that because that's his system. That's his system. And then Rupa Goswami discusses so many details to do with this. To our seniors, we offer respect and service, and we receive their guidance. With our peers, we engage in friendship and happily support each other in Krishna consciousness. To our juniors, we give our mercy. We give instruction, we give guidance. It's not that anyone in any of those positions needs to develop an ego about it. It's just natural. The disciple of today can be the guru of tomorrow. It's natural. It needs to happen. But not that the disciple of today who didn't practice discipline properly and didn't learn the Shastra properly then inherits the title as a guru and teaches people the wrong thing. That's not required at all in our movement. Very good if we do without that. Far better that a really potent person, and few of them, as Prabhupada said, a few moons. 1 moon is far better than all the millions of stars, he said. So if we have a few strong devotees who are genuine followers of their founder Acharya, of the entire parampara, of the 6 Goswamis, and actually act to preserve the legacy, not act to chip away at it, they're the ones who actually have the authority to call themselves servants of Krishna's lotus feet, and in Krishna's eyes will be the ones who will represent this mission accurately. So it's definitely a deep topic, and we've seen how Lord Chaitanya gives specific instructions to different people. We have to simply find out what is our our instruction. What should we do? This mission, this purpose, the opportunities available to us are unlimited. They are immense. And if simply with a little guidance from the right source, we can get some clear direction for what we do, then we will have a harmonious society without undue competition between people, artificial imitation. We can leave all that aside and do this massive task and this increasingly difficult task and much needed task of giving some hope to the people of Kali Yuga, because it's really getting messy now. So I'll stop there on that uplifting thought. And I'll see if there are any questions, comments. Yes, bro. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Babu. Thank you very much
From
for
Soho Street.
very good class, very thoughtful. Srila Prabhupada has explained once that ISKCON has nothing to fear from outside. If there is a problem, if there is a big problem, it will come from inside.
Yes.
Is it unpredictable? Is it something which is meant to happen? It will happen. And if there is a way to try to prevent this as much as possible, if it's
Yeah, very interesting point. It is definitely true, and we know the analogy of the bundle of sticks, right? So one stick on its own can be snapped, but if you have a bundle of them together, no chance you can snap that. Very, very strong indeed. In fact, the fact that ISKCON has survived for 50 years and is now moving from strength to strength is actually an endorsement of the fact that somehow the devotees have managed to do that. Because during that period, it's not the case that there were no challenges. There have been challenges across the world. Everywhere where ISKCON has been established, practically every temple, every center has gone through all sorts of drama. Devotees have gone through trouble in their own lives, trouble caused by others, all of that. So nothing from outside can harm us unless we bring the outside inside. That's where the real problem comes, because while we're at a stage of practice, and if we're honest and we will consider ourselves to basically be neophyte practitioners, when you compare yourself to the acharyas or Goswamis or whoever, we are basically neophyte practitioners, and we confuse things that we are fond of, our attachments, with the actual need of the mission. And sometimes those two things kind of merge, sometimes they overlap, and if we're not corrected or guided, then our needs, our situation starts to become our definition of what the mission needs. And that's dangerous and it's risky. It's kind of likely to happen, but it doesn't have to happen if there's proper guidance and proper consideration. And this idea is there that my specific needs, my specific service, my specific agenda is one of the offerings that Krishna accepts. It is not the only type of offering that Krishna accepts, because Krishna is in charge of unlimited living entities. And unlimited living entities can offer something unique and special to the Lord. But sometimes people will define, they'll think, okay, I like this in my life, everyone around me must also do that. That can start to cause problems. That is when ego is creeping in and manifesting. So these are ways by which that influence from the outside can come in. And different symptoms can be there. You know, attachment to material things. Here it's mentioned attachment to money, women specifically. But we know it's all of the above. Intoxication, gambling, anything that's degrading, any attachments that subtly each person has. Sometimes you can ignore them, suppress them, or they may even disappear and not bother you for some period of time. 10 years, 20 years, possibly 30 years. Then something may come up again. Maybe something comes up, and you can be like Shobari Muni, meditating under the water, and immediately you see 2 fish and it's all over. We should not have any kind of false confidence in ourselves. That typically doesn't impress Krishna much. We tell Krishna, I'm such a fine devotee, I get up at 2:30 a.m. every morning, I chant strictly, I jump up and down during kirtan, I am very regulated, I follow Chaturmasya, I do this, that. These things are all excellent. I recommend everyone tries them. They're good. But if you come before Krishna and say, I'm doing this, Krishna, aren't you happy with me? Krishna will say, yes, I'm very happy with you. Let's see what happens in 5 years' time. You've got no clue what's coming around the corner. Which curveball is going to hit you that time? No idea. It's the world. And our anarthas can sometimes be, as we're going through the process of anartha nivriti, sometimes they will decrease and decrease and decrease while we're in the association of devotees. And then sometimes if there's a gap in our performance, they will start to rise again. And then at some point they break through our regulation. And then they act. So it's dangerous. So Krishna isn't impressed with that. Rather, he's impressed when we come before him and say, Krishna, I have no qualification whatsoever. I'm simply trying to serve under the guidance of my spiritual master, and to serve the devotees, to try to please them. Please somehow guide me through this forest I have to overcome. And you know what he can do? He can make the forest or the sea, the ocean of material existence, he can dry it up to the amount of water that fits in the the hoof print of a calf. No? He says that. Can reduce it. But only if we're humble towards him. So yes, we should not have any great confidence in ourselves. And so if we have no confidence, we come before Krishna and say, Krishna, please protect me. Let me act in a way that befits you, that serves you. Then with that, Krishna supplies his protection. The helpless person attracts Krishna's protection. So Krishna supplies that protection, and then nothing can get in. And we should not have any doubts how strong Krishna's protection is. If we're eligible to have his protection, nothing can get through it. Anyone in this world can try whatever they want, or even outside this world, and it will have no effect, because Krishna's protection. Ambarish Maharaj, Sudarshan Chakra, Durvasa Muni, so many examples are there. Powerful, powerful forces can do nothing for a devotee. Ashwatthama, sending a Brahmastra to Uttara. What was the effect? Nothing. Parikshit Maharaj was born. What a great fortune. Parikshit Maharaj was born. So confidence in Krishna will protect us. Okay. David?
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. My question is about, in terms of the regulation, the 4 regulatory principles are to the standard of a Brahmana. And I was wondering, is that applicable? Can everyone in society follow that? Is it possible?
We should always encourage everyone in society to follow that. And there have always been persons in all the different varnas and ashrams who will follow that. Brahmanas are expected to follow it. It's just kind of like basic requirement. It's like, tick the first box before you can even consider yourself to be a Brahmana. Do you follow the regs? Kshatriyas, they generally do. If you happen to be in the category of a Raja Rishi, then you're likely to also. But each varna has its own set of rules as well. So Kshatriyas, for example, may sometimes eat meat or whatever. They may do that sometimes as part of their tradition. But they know that it is to be done minimally. And it is to be done as a necessity. And then Vaishyas typically are not meant to do it at all. Shudras will typically break principles left, right and center. But if they're encouraged and engaged so that their efforts are somehow render something useful to other saintly persons. And this is why a good king is so important in Vedic culture. Because everyone else, even if they don't have an understanding of God, and even if they think their activities are not actually going to be of any direct use to God, simply if they follow the duty given to them by the state, their employment or whatever, and the person in charge of that is a saintly person, a good Kshatriya, a Raja Rishi, then whatever they do brings them credit also. So typically by nature these varnas have been established. It's according to a person's nature. And people in each varna are capable of following a very high standard. That's perhaps the item for us to focus on. That we shouldn't say, this person has a Shudra mentality, he'll never get to there. No. In Kali Yuga, it said, in one sense, Kalau Shudra Sambhava, everyone is of a Shudra mentality in Kali Yuga, in one sense. Also, we shouldn't take that to another extreme and disregard anyone who has Brahminical tendencies. We sometimes make all those mistakes, one extreme or the other. Generally, we can see that this age is an age of degradation. But those very people, when they heard Prabhupada's message, when they rendered service to him, Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra, when they did all that, they raised themselves from that level to a level of Brahminical practice. And it's very much possible. And anyone, anywhere, is capable of doing that. So typically people often mention a few very extreme circumstances. They say, if you don't eat meat, how can someone living in the North Pole survive? Now, I've heard this many times. Or you go to some far-flung region where there is only a fish to eat. How are you going to survive? Yes, if you're living there, then eat a fish, right? But you're not living there. You're living in a place where you can have plenty wholesome items. If you're in any doubt what I'm talking about, Diwali's coming and Annakut is coming. And Govardhan Puja is coming. And you just come here on Govardhan Puja and there'll be enough preps from that end of the altar practically spilling out into the temple room. More preps than you've ever even thought are possible with just fruit, vegetables, grains, milk. And that should hopefully completely change your perspective as to what on earth can I eat if I don't eat these other degraded items. The problem is people don't know what is possible. And so many people, when they come, guests, they eat prasadam and they think, I've never had anything like this. Are you sure this is all vegetarian? I could never have thought this was possible. They say this directly to us. So we should have strong faith. We should have strong faith in the culture we have been given by Krishna. Krishna is a Vaishya, a cowherd boy, right? He also acted as Kshatriya, acted as a Brahmana, acted as a Shudra. He did. He was a chariot driver. Arjun was kicking him to give him orders. He was. That's how a charioteer is given orders on the battlefield, with the foot. Krishna acted in each of those capacities. And if we just follow him, if we just do what pleases him, just follow his directions, patram pushpam phalam toyam, actually everyone in society can be healthy. All persons, not just Brahmanas. Brahmanas have extra special duties, samadhamatapa, shocham, shanti, marjam, evacha, all of that. Kshatriyas have their own things as well, Vaishyas. So we should just, whoever we meet, we should just give them the best. Somehow, tactfully give them the best standard, and then naturally they may gravitate towards some standard which is better than what they would have done. Anything else? Yes, Mataji? Can we give the mic?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for lovely class. As a grihastha, we have to work in this society. And we always hear that we have to depend on Krishna all the time for our necessities. So what is the fine line? How much we can put effort in our life and to depend upon Krishna? Like when to stop putting our efforts and when to depend upon Krishna. It's so difficult to find out every time.
Yes, that balance is definitely something to get right. But there is no contradiction between effort and dependence on Krishna. What does Krishna say? Remember me and fight. Right? How does the verse go? Become my instrument and fight. Nimitta matra bhavasavya sachin. Remember me and fight, he says to Arjun. He still expects Arjun to fight, but he also says depend on me. So there's a potential contradiction that we normally think, because when you do something, you think you're not depending on someone else. Actually, your very ability to do something also is dependent on Krishna. It's just that we don't recognize it. I am the ability in man, tejasvinamaham, right? I am the strength of the strong, Krishna says. But we don't think about that. We think it's my strength, my power. Even while you do some action, it could be cooking or something. You're cooking something. Your ability to lift the pan, your ability to add the ingredients, that's supplied by Krishna. You can be fully in the consciousness that, dear Lord Krishna, I'm fully dependent upon you for every single thing that I'm capable of doing. And now you have given me a body, you've given me a mind, you've given me instructions, you've given me certain power to wield on your behalf. Then the wielding of that power, whatever it may be, is not a contradiction to dependence on Krishna. And therefore the thing that makes that transformation from being something that you do under your own strength versus something that you do with dependence on Krishna is first of all humility to Krishna, and then secondly remembering Krishna at every moment. Because Krishna had great expectations of Arjuna. He had to do some serious fighting. He had to wield weapons that practically no human was capable of. He had acquired them from the heavenly places. He was expected to do a lot. Yudhishthira Maharaj was somehow expected to keep everyone on a saintly path, despite having unlimited good reason to go all out and destroy the Kauravas completely. Somehow Yudhishthira had to keep them on a path. What a challenge that was, after suffering so much abuse from the other side. Why? Because they remembered Krishna constantly. Whatever power we have is all yours, Krishna. And so we can actually work even more enthusiastically when we realize we're dependent on Krishna. Krishna gives us power for some extent, and as Arjuna himself experienced, when Krishna departed this world, he was unable to do even the basic task which himself as a Kshatriya had done multiple times before. He defeated enemies of Indra for Indra's benefit. Indra had subcontracted killing his enemies to Arjuna, a human. And now he could not even protect a group of women from some infidel cowherds who were abducting them. He was unable to. And then Arjuna realized, all this strength, whatever I possess, was only because of Krishna. So when we are actually situated in that mood that whatever I have, my skill, my ability, could be any ability, could be cooking, scholarly ability, could be money-making ability, whatever it is, that ability comes from Krishna. Then the two things will go on. And that's why you will see devotees who are fully dependent on Krishna, also very active to spread the mission of Krishna. Very active. They don't sit at home thinking, I'm dependent on Krishna, not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. Everyone can become a devotee tomorrow if he desires. Let me just sit here and chant. Devotees don't do that. Devotees say, Lord Chaitanya came here and gave me a chance to serve him in his mission. Lord Nityananda is there. Here we heard Lord Chaitanya sent Lord Nityananda to Bengal to preach. He sent Rupa and Sanatan to Vrindavan to do so many things, excavate and teach and preach and whatever. And he has left me here in this holy place of London in order to preach. I'll do that with even more enthusiasm. Why? Because it's the mission given to me by the Lord. When the Lord told Haridas Thakur, you stay here and chant, how did Haridas Thakur take that instruction? He did it in a way, it's mind-boggling. 300,000 names, practically no sleep, and still he was preaching. He could do that. Nityananda, wow, what preaching did he do there? Rupa and Sanatan, how did they live? What did they do? It actually empowers you. When you're dependent on Krishna, you are far more enthused to do devotional service.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we've gone a little over time. Thank you for bearing. Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.